I had been in search of a new house for some time now. My previous one, while serving its purpose, was showing its age, and I accepted that it was simpler, and perhaps less costly, to seek out a new home, rather than to refurbish my old one. It was, at the time, good fortune to discover a house that not only held a fine condition, but came at a reasonable price. Apparently it stood on the market for months, yet not one person had an interest in taking it. My curious side prompted me to inquire why, and I'll admit, even back then, I was left troubled. The previous occupant, a young man who lived alone, had been reported missing nearly a year ago. Within that time, not a trace was found. His last sighting was stepping into that house, and afterwards, he has not been seen since. A thorough search of the house was made, but nothing seemed out of place. Upon learning this, I heard nothing but theories and conspiracies. The most common, of course, was that the man was dead, either by murder, or possibly by his own hand. But in relation to why the house has been vacant, it is believed to be cursed, and that is why he vanished. I wouldn't say I'm in denial of the supernatural, but even then, the thought that a building could pluck a man out of existence was absurd. When examining the house, I discovered I had little work in the way of bringing in furniture, as most of it remained from the previous owner. Even though the house was presumably empty for a long period of time, all of it was in remarkable condition. The shelves, chairs, bedside tables, the bed itself, it looked brand new. Another item left behind that I would take ownership of was a large square mirror hung up in the living room. It was just as spotless as everything else, yet seemed extremely ancient. The frame was made of wood, smoothly carved to form beautiful shapes around the edges. I assumed the previous owner had quite a taste for past designs. Really, the only thing that seemed off was the wooden floor on the landing. Every time I stepped on a particular board, it let out an awfully loud squeak. That was indeed something I knew would need to be fixed. Overall, though, I was satisfied with the house, and while no doubt a controversial choice, I bought it and moved in shortly afterwards. I believe my first week in the house was rather simple, mostly, and I mean that not in a negative light. Of course it was not easy, adjusting to a new layout, with key elements like your bed or bathroom being in different spots. However, it didn't take long to find comfort in this ordinary but charming structure. Based on what's been said about it, it was not surprising that a few of my neighbours gave me significant attention. They would ask if I was in good health, that anything was wrong, or perhaps insist I should reconsider my decision. I was more than thankful for their concern, but I soon felt bothered. Then, when the first week approached its end, something happened. I stepped into the house, exhausted from work, so much so I was considering just skipping dinner and heading straight for bed. As I walked past the mirror, I stopped. For a while, I stared into that mirror. Within the reflection, there was me, the sofa, a small table with a lamp on it, and, in the corner, a figure stood. To be more specific, it was like a thick shadow of a figure being cast on the wall. Yet, my lamp was switched off, and only faint light emerged from the windows. I quickly spun round to that corner. Nothing stood there. It was nothing more but empty. I returned my gaze to the reflection, and found that it too lacked the shadow. Now, it was safe to say that I was confused. I spent the following few minutes inspecting the house. Every room was checked, and it seemed no one else but myself was present. All the same, it was hard to decide if I was relieved or concerned. I was more than certain I saw someone, or something, in that corner. I believe in the end, I concluded my mind was drained, and creating things that weren't there. I was tired after all, so it wasn't unreasonable to assume that there was nothing there to begin with. Even then, I still recall wondering why I would imagine something like that. That was merely the first incident. It was now a few days later, in the early morning. I had gotten up and was dressed for work. I decided to peer out of the bedroom window to survey the landscape. I was pleased to see it would be a mostly clear day, with only a few clouds about. I then noticed a faint reflection on the window. In it, I could make out the doorway out into the landing, and just beyond that, a shadow of a person. Quickly turning, once again, I saw no such thing with my own eyes. By this point, I had the previous incident in the back of my mind, and had almost forgotten about it. It seemed impossible to do that now. One time was already unsettling, but for it to happen again... I can also say factually that this time I was not tired. Soon after this, it became a pattern. Throughout the second week in the house, and then the following week, I had the same experience. It would appear that this shadow is only seen to the human eye in reflections. Mostly, I would view it standing completely still, as if it were a mere statue. But rarely I caught it moving. It would simply walk round the house, across rooms, through doorways. Of course, since it only appeared in reflections, any attempts at following this shadow from one room to another were futile. It was most common in that old mirror in the living room. Its large design meant I had a clear, full view of the shadow. Not that there was any detail to note of anyway. No eyes, no mouth, no clear idea of what it wore. Just purely black. Eventually, I thought back to the stories regarding this house, about the previous occupant, and how he suddenly vanished without reason. I began to ask myself, was this shadow the cause for his disappearance? If that were so, would I suffer the same fate? I fought hard to keep my sanity in check, for as disturbing as it all was, I took some comfort in remembering that no harm had been done to myself. This shadow, or whatever it truly was, did not seem to be a violent spirit in any way. I even tried to convince myself that it was instead a guardian for this house, and had intent on protecting me. That did put me at ease, at least for a while. One particular morning, I awoke from my bed to feel a burning sensation on my arm. Lifting my sleeve, I stared in horror at the sight of a large red mark just below my shoulder. Normally, I would blame these on bugs or flies who took a bite during the night. This was no such thing. Looking over to my bedroom mirror, I spotted that shadow once again in the reflection. It was standing next to my bed, looking down at me. Once I got up and moved closer to the mirror, it was gone. I can't exactly describe it, but an ominous feeling washed over me. I finally stopped trying to deny it. This was no guardian. This was an unnatural threat, and clearly my life was in danger. It was fortunate that I had no work that day, and so I had much time to consider my next choice of action. Perhaps I could phone a priest, or it might be better to move out. That, of course, would be much longer, and I wanted to believe there could be a simpler solution to resolve this. As I thought, I walked onto the landing, and all of a sudden, a squeaky creak rang out. I looked down at that particular floorboard, which now was certainly the least of my worries. When I examined it closely, I realized that the gaps around this board were slightly larger compared to the others. Furthermore, it didn't appear to be properly nailed down. I can't say I know what prompted me to do it, but I kneeled down and pushed my fingers into the gaps as best I could. Then, with little effort, I lifted the board and placed it to the side. Expecting nothing more but an empty space, I was startled to discover a small leather book underneath the floor. It was coated with dust and dirt, the signs of being there for a long time, though I couldn't calculate exactly how long. Pulling it out slowly, I thought it better to clean it to the best of my ability, before observing its contents. I brought it down to the kitchen, slowly, so as not to have any dust fall onto the floor. Using a cloth, I fiercely wiped the thing too many times to count. In the end, a few specks of hard dirt remained, but compared to before, it was in a far more acceptable condition. Bringing the book into my living room, I sat on the sofa and stared at it for a while. I'll admit, I was filled with hesitation. Who in their right mind would essentially bury some book under their floor and just leave it there for God knows how long? That said, based on other things, this house wasn't exactly normal. Finally, I gave in and opened it up. I quickly understood that the book was in fact a journal, almost filled with entries regarding its owner's life, marked with dates and even times. Now, I will not bore you with everything that was written in there. Almost all of it is just personal experiences and events. I will, however, recount the last few entries the owner put down. After I read them, I not only had answers to some important questions, but furthermore, I was left afraid, and could see now why this house was vacant for so long. April 13th. I am weary. This house does not feel the same. It has been like this for a while, but this morning when I woke up, it was really strong. There is a presence in this house, one that I cannot see with my own eyes. It's that damn mirror. It has to be. Only when I bought it last week did everything begin to change. When I walk by it, or stand in front of it, I can feel it. I can't see anything, but something is there. I don't know how I know that, but I know. The more I listen, I swear I hear whispering. Clearly words have been spoken, but what they are I can't tell. I've lost count of how many times I've checked this house, and every time no one is here. At least, no one is visible here. Once again, I pray it's merely exhaustion, perhaps stress from my life, that's decided to toy with me. Yes, I pray. April 14th. The whispering has been stronger today. At first, as with before, I struggled to understand anything that was said, but the clearest it can be heard was in front of that mirror. As I sat in the living room, near the mirror, I made out one word. Help is what I hear. Help. Help. I don't know what to make of it. What does it mean? Is someone trapped in this house? I'm certain no one is here but me. A lost spirit? A weeping angel, perhaps? Why does it only come from the mirror? Where did it come from? Of course, I should return it. Demand answers from the shopkeeper. But how could one explain this? The whole town will think me mad, hearing voices from a mirror. No, there must be a way, some way, to solve this. Once again, my mind aches. I'm going to sleep now, but tomorrow I will listen to these whispers more closely. I will try to understand. April 15th. I was wrong. I completely misjudged it. Earlier, I followed my word and listened closely to it. Its presence was far greater than ever before, like it stood directly in front of me. Yet, I wasn't afraid. I didn't fear it as I did before. I was the most calm I had felt in ages. This time, while still in whispers, I understood every word. It is a part of this mirror. It is forever attached to it, and thus attached to whatever house it resides in. It isn't trapped. It doesn't need help, as I first thought. It wishes to offer help to me. It offers to strengthen me, to become a great entity like itself. It offers to share its power with me, that I can have an existence of absolute solitude in a way few can. A huge offer, to be sure, one that seems so enticing, an escape from the current world. Yet I stand presently with hesitation. For all the benefits, it was daunting. Could I handle it? Was I truly worthy of it? I have asked for it to give me time, to let me consider it. It agreed. I will spend tomorrow to think it all over. Then perhaps the day after that, I will be able to decide. April 16th. The sun is setting. The hour will soon be late. Only the offer has been on my mind. Considering its presence, I thought it would be stressful to think about it. But up to now, I have been relaxed. The atmosphere of this house has changed for the better. It is no longer intimidating. It isn't rushing me or demanding I take its side. It really wants me to decide. I am very much grateful for that. I have thought greatly about my life up to this point, the good things that have happened, and the other times. I have wondered, do I want to remain this way? Do I want to stay in my current presence? Is this life going to provide me the joy and happiness I'm searching for? Should I choose that over a life that guarantees those things? The more I thought about it, the more the answer was obvious. I have decided. I will speak to it tonight. It worked. It is done. I have achieved it. I spoke to it and asked for its help. I was provided instructions to stand in front of the mirror and wait. I asked clearly for its strength. The light went out. I stood in silence. The light came on, and the difference was immediate. I am here, but I am not here. I feel weightless, almost empty, but my mind has been cleansed. Nothing holds me back. No one is a danger to me. I am at peace. Though I can touch and feel the physical world, it is limited. Writing these words, holding the pen, is difficult. I won't need it anymore. I'll find somewhere to hide it. It may be found one day. It doesn't matter. No sooner had I read those last words, I felt a strong, stinging chill. I didn't need to look into that mirror to know it was there. Nothing happened, although I thought I could hear whispering, faint and indescribable. I am making arrangements to leave immediately. Hopefully, it will give me the time